Would you believe I recorded this whole thing with my mic on mute? Take two. In this edition of the Star Trek Void, I've got, of course, a birthday, a lot of remembrances, a anniversary, an explanation as to why the Lower Decks has been canceled, and also the theory of 5, and that's a wrap. This is the Star Trek Void, where I try to fill in the gaps between new episodes with some news, some information, and hopefully a little bit of entertainment. And today, as per usual, we are starting off with a happy birthday. Happy birthday to Ron Perlman, who played the Raymond Viceroy in Star Trek Nemesis. Hellboy, Beauty and the Beast, and Sons of Anarchy are all hashtagged there. There is our Ron Perlman. Yes, now my husband really likes him for Hellboy. I personally really enjoyed him in Sons of Anarchy, but everybody enjoys Ron Perlman. He's a fantastic actor and so distinctive. We love to see him. Happy birthday, Ron. And today we're also going to be honoring several people who have passed and are part of our Star Trek history. Starting with, on his birthday, we remember Peter Mark Richmond, who played Ralph Offenhouse in Star Trek TNG's The Neutral Zone. So there we go. Very nice to see him. Really did a good job on the part. And another great actor in our Star Trek universe. On his birthday, we remember Michael Ansara, most famous as Kang in Star Trek's Day of the Dove. He played Kang again on Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager, and JL, husband to Loxana Troi, in the Deep Space Nine episode The Muse. And out of all the times he played, I hated him as JL the most. He was a terrible, awful jerk, and no one should be forced to marry him or live by those rules. Archaic. Also on her birthday, remembering Arlene Martell T'Pring in the Star Trek episode Amok Time. She had previously auditioned to play Dr. Daner in Where No Man Has Gone before. She then auditioned to be Sylvia in Cat's Paw, but they were already planning to cast her as T'Pring, and she made a fantastic T'Pring. I could see her in Cat's Paw, but I think being remembered as T'Pring is probably a way cooler way to be remembered, in my opinion, because the character comes back. She's a big part of Spock's history, so she's a big part of Trek history. We're also remembering Joseph Ruskin. On his birthday, we remember Joseph Ruskin, who was Galt in The Gamesters of Triskelion, Star Trek the original series, Tumek and a Cardassian informant on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a Suns officer in Star Trek Insurrection, and a Vulcan master on Voyager, and a Sullivan doctor on Enterprise. He's up there with Jeffrey, just going to show up wherever you are looking. He's just going to be there. So yeah, fantastic array of character he's played, and so very much a part of our Star Trek history or Star Trek lore. Very happy to remember him today. Now moving away from our birthdays and remembrances onto an anniversary. This one is shared by Doug Jones himself, our very own Saru. 40 years ago today, the lovely Mrs. Laurie married me, and I've been trying to convince her what a mistake she's made ever since. But she stuck around and is the kindest, most patient, forgiving, good-humored, angelic, loving human I've ever known, and I'm truly blessed. And what a way for your partner to talk about you. What a great post there. Doug, who I first saw, I think, would be in an episode called Hush of the 4th season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He played this like creepy skeletal, ghost gentleman creature. I believe they were just called the Gentleman. He was just creepy, very, very creepy, and so cool that he joined our group of Star Trek actors and cast members that we just totally love, because he is so lovable. If you get a chance, and this is what I'm hoping to do this summer, get a hug from Doug Jones. I hear that he is just a fantastic guy to chat with. So happy anniversary to Doug. Happy anniversary to your beautiful wife. And now we take a look at this fine group of folks. This post shared by Terry Metalis on his Instagram. He simply says, the writing staff of Star Trek Picard Season 3 at the WGA Awards. And while they did not walk away with an award for themselves, the nomination gets marked up there with all of the other nominations and awards that this season has won so far. It's been fairly incredible. They have got to be very proud of themselves. Terry Metalis in particular, as showrunner, they've got to be really proud of the work that they've done and all of the recognition they've received for their hard work. It was an excellent season, really well put together, and like I said, great group of good-looking folks there. Speaking of a great group of good looking folks, this is, of course, by no means a new image. It is a throwback. It's not even a throwback Thursday. I'm sorry, I'm not cool like that. But I do love this image. I think that this is the first picture I ever saw of actors outside of their set, outside of their story, because my mom was a science teacher. And so showing us that the Enterprise crew were in front of a real space shuttle was like a really big deal for her. This one is shared by the Macon Venus, the Star Trek cast in front of the real space shuttle Enterprise. Got to be one of the coolest fiction meets fact photos. And yeah, I love this. I adore the fact that they got to do this amazing thing, stand in front of their own, well, it's not theirs, but the true Starship space shuttle Enterprise. And it never would have happened if Gene, standing in the middle with that fantastic, brown suit next to Nimoy, hadn't come up with this story, hadn't cast this incredible group. It had to be probably one of the coolest things. We've got DeForest Kelley, George Takei, Nichelle, there's Nimoy, we've got, and at the very end, Walter Koenig. Just amazing. Is that behind, I wanted to say behind Sulu, behind George, is that Scotty? Can't tell with the beard or if it's somebody else. Let me know below if you can tell if that's Scotty or not. I always really enjoyed it, James, and yeah, but I'm terrible with facial hair. If people have too much facial hair, I can't recognize them anymore. It's a me thing. Now, that was a really fun way, I think, to start off the video. Cheering news, celebrations of those we've lost, and how much they contributed. Good stuff. And now we're going to skip all of the fun stuff and go straight to Paramount Global drama, because that's kind of what we do around here lately. Yeah, Paramount Global, they've had this really weird month so far, and we're like just over halfway through the month. They started off with an announcement that we're going to be having talks with Skydance. People were kind of excited. All right. In fact, if you look at this graph of how things went, we've got this full year's worth of stock prices for Paramount Global. And you can see, I like to say, Picard ended and it just dropped. That's not exactly what happened, but the timing, that's a year ago. And then, as we can see, there's been a fairly steady decline, little hop-ups, but then it goes right back down again. Now, about the time they announced that Skydance would be in exclusive talks with Paramount Plus, we had a little jump up again. Check it out. And then a slow decline yet again. What is the deal with all the ups and downs, and why can't people make up their mind whether they're happy about it or not? Let's take a look real quick of the history of how Ellison taking over and Skydance being a majority controller of Paramount Global, how that's gone from, oh, what a good idea, to maybe this is going to be a problem. Now, as I get this started, I want to remind you that my business degree, it's non-existent. The only reason my education is considered a business education is because the computer science division was in the business area of my college. So that is the extent of my business understanding. I'm not an economics major. I do not have some great understanding of stocks. I just like Star Trek a lot, and I'm very concerned about Paramount. So at the beginning of the month, when Paramount announced that they would be having discussions with Skydance, we can see by this article, the stock price rose by 15% on Wednesday when that announcement came, all in the minutes leading up to the market close, after the Wall Street Journal reported that Paramount and its controlling shareholder National Amusements, led by Shari Redstone, have agreed to an exclusive negotiation window with David Ellison's Skydance in a key step towards a possible sale of the media and entertainment empire controlled by Redstone in a two-stage process. Seem like pretty good news. There might be an answer to what the heck is going to happen to Paramount Global, and people seem fairly positive that Skydance could make a good difference. After all, for me, they were involved in at least 2 Star Trek projects known as movies, so not my favorite movies, but still, they've got some experience in the area. But then, as you can see, a pretty steady decline with little hiccups up, but no major changes, even with the information that was coming out for people who actually know what the heck they're talking about. In fact, in this latest article, just came out today as I'm making this, 4 board members have left. As it states here, 4 key board members at Paramount Global are set to step down following reports of the entertainment giant's potential merger with Skydance Media. The announcement was made in the company's proxy filing on Thursday, revealing that former Spotify executive Don Ostroff, Sony Entertainment ex-president Nicole Seligman, Redstone attorney Rob Klieger, and investment banker Frederick Terrell will not seek re-election at the upcoming annual investor meeting on July 4th. And I think what's most interesting there is they aren't planning to fill those seats. Again, we're going from 11 seats on the board to 7. And I don't know if they're just slimming it down for Skydance or if they just don't think they could find interested parties. But part of the problem is that the major shareholders are not real keen on Skydance, and the minor shareholders are kind of concerned that only the major shareholders will be heard. It's not unheard of, but I also think that it might be making the decisions as to where to go next a little bit more difficult. We can see here Paramount's shares have experienced a nearly 5% decline this month. Analysis speculate that investors may be wary of the reported deal terms, which entails Skydance acquiring Redstone's majority stake while leaving Paramount as a publicly traded entity. And that majority stake here, Redstone's National Amusement currently holds a significant 77% stake in Paramount, granting it substantial control over the company's operations. And so, again, my novice opinion, not an expert here, but that inconsistency, that lack of confidence in what's going to happen next, I believe that is why those numbers are declining substantially, even after they get a little jump up, they just seem to decline again right afterwards. And again, lack of confidence in the future, that's going to make a big difference. But we do know a few things about our future, at least the future of some of our shows. For instance, we know that Star Trek Discovery's finale is going to be a little longer than its average episode. And for obvious reasons. At the last minute, our cast and crew came in to fill some final pieces because the show was ending. It was unexpectedly ending. They were planning on a 6th season. And so to wrap things up for us fans and maybe to help continue the stories in our minds for our current cast members, they decided to come back, reshoot a few things. And because of that, the episode that tells us the end is going to be a little bit longer, and so we get just a little bit more discovery before we have to say goodbye to our crew. Our Go on-screen rant backs that up by quoting not only the showrunner and of course our producer Sonequa, but also discussing how they, with Alex Kurtzman, figured out how they were going to end things. It's a really good read, and I of course will include the link to it below. Now, we got great news late last week that Strange New Worlds would be signed up for a 4th season, and we are really excited about that 3rd season coming out. After all, a bunch of our crew is sort of kidnapped, disappeared, and we want to see what happens to them next. And when will we see that 3rd season? Well, probably not till 2026, but we do know that they have finished filming. Yes, it's a wrap. Some great behind the scenes images here of cast, crew, directors, producers taking seats in the chair, having a few moments on the bridge, in the shuttlecraft, all over, and lots of fun images that were shared. Here's a shuttlecraft image. You can see the inside, all the gears and switches that help to take them off into new places, and apparently, hopefully, miss that wall over there. But we got people setting up the set for possibly the next shoot that day. A good view of green stripes on the floor. Why not? The craft services. Thank you, craft services, for making sure our cast and crew are always well fed. Another great view of the big chair on the bridge. Some fantastic earrings. Chilling out in the transporter room. And, oh yeah, the lounge there. The name is escaping me. Feel free to correct me below and let me know what it is that I've just forgotten. But our new bar here is a great stop. It was a great addition to season 2. I think they utilized that new set really well. I'm excited to see how it's used in our 3rd season and our 4th season. Now, what about a 5th season? There seems to be a 5th season thing going on. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, a theory given to us by Giant Freaking Robot on why Lower Decks was canceled. Now, I would normally share pieces of this article as well, but I've got so many advertisements popping up on it. I'm not going to bother. It'll drive you crazy. It'll drive me crazy. What I will do, of course, is share the link below and let you know this article has a good theory, but it is, as they say, ridiculous. Star Trek Lower Decks canceled for a ridiculous reason, and that is probably because it's only 30 minutes long, where our other shows are slated as an hour long, give or take a few minutes. Lower Decks is half that time, and because success on streaming services is measured by watch hours, Lower Decks automatically gets half the watch hours. Could that be part of the reason we lost Prodigy? I don't know. But I do know that Lower Decks being canceled has been upsetting a lot of Star Trek fans. It's a very popular show. I mean, it took me a season before I really got into it because, I mean, I have my adult cartoon stuff. I have Family Guy, I have American Dad. Futurama. I'm good with that. But Lower Decks, it did take me a minute to really get in the swing of things. And once I did, I am in love with these characters. My favorite is, of course, Tendi. I look a little bit like Boimler, cosplayed him last year. And I enjoy Mariner because of her her rebellious attitude. It reminds me of me in my 20s. And of course, who doesn't love a cyber geek? Rutherford, awesome and fantastic and really just a joy. He's always so upbeat. I get a kick out of him. He and Tendi, really. But having them finish simply because they don't get as many watch time hours, simply because they are half as long, is ridiculous. That still leaves a half hour to watch, the episode twice, or watch another half hour show, which Paramount doesn't mind streaming. Like, I've been watching Sheldon's 7th season, and, Ghost. Ghost is cute. I enjoy that. Already saw the UK version too. But I don't see why 30 minutes makes a huge difference. You still get 30 minutes of your advertisers, or you people who pay not to the advertisements still pay the extra not to get an advertisement. They still watch it. It's a dopey reason to cancel. I still think the one that makes the most sense is, they're not going to be Lower Decks folks anymore. Everybody got promoted. That's, that's the writer's fault. The other theory is, of course, that they reached the 5-season cap, which seems to be the rule lately. Picard made it to 3, but I think that was always planned that they would just do 3, and now they're getting a movie, so really no big complaints here. But the rule of 5 seems to be following around Star Trek now, might be starting a trend because of how Discovery got shut off. And now, of course, Lower Decks, season 5, bam. Is that the new rule? 5 seasons of Star Trek is the new 7, unfortunately. And I guess with that, we get some good things. We don't get so many filler episodes that really are just to take up time and make sure they fill a time slot for a broadcasting network. No, we have a planned 10, 12, whatever episodes. They know what their budget is going to be for each episode. They don't have to do any 2 men in a bottle, ship in a bottle episodes where we have to do very low cost, very few extras. Again, just to try and tell a story. Although, come on, Shuttle Pod 1 on Enterprise is still one of the best versions of that and can be done really well. But we're glad not to get a bunch of filler. If we aren't going to get 7 seasons with 20-some episodes each, at least we are generally getting 10 very solid episodes full of information that we need to carry along the story. But the new rule of 5, it could just exactly be what that is, the new rule. For people in my generation, when we had Star Trek TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, 7 seasons was seen as normal. Even though the original series only had 3 seasons and the animated series only had 1, I think really we're just really spoiled. But we were used to getting that many. In fact, Enterprise only having 4 is still a sore spot. As you can see on this graph, in fact, 7, kind of rare. Now, the reason we expect to see so many episodes is because, again, my generation, we're used to it. But streaming works so differently now. The way that they are budgeting for episodes, very different. Budgeting for an entire season, I should say, is very different. The expectations are also very different, and the way that they measure success is very different. It's half the reason why the writers and the actors had to go back and get a new contract for their work to make sure that they were being paid fairly, not as minimally as possible, trying to live on scraps while giving us great entertainment. But as we can see here, shows like Picard, 3 seasons, pretty much what was expected from what I understand. Strange New Worlds, right now, signed up for a 4th season. Is it very possible that the 5th will be the last? It is very possible. Star Trek Prodigy, not part of Paramount's worries anymore, but again, they're only at 2 seasons. Will they make a 3rd? Well, we won't know that until they drop the 2nd season so that everybody can watch it and Netflix can see if it's a success or not. And so while fans are very disappointed that the 5th season will be the final season for Lower Decks, I think we have to get used to the fact that that may just be the way things are now, that Star Trek is off broadcast channels and on streaming services exclusively. And on that depressing note, that's everything I have so far this week for the Star Trek Void. If you enjoyed this installment, please do give me a like so I know that, I'm doing all right. If you didn't, feel free to give me a thumbs down. That helps as well. Always feel free to comment below. And hey, if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you'll know when the next video does come out. I usually try to do one, if not two, editions of the volume every week. Just sort of depends on what information comes out and if it's worth chatting about. I want to thank my new viewers. I've been getting a couple of new ones every now and then. And if I could release these reasonably on a Monday, I think I would do that because that's when I seem to get more people who are interested in seeing what's going on. But it's just not that reasonable. I've got an 8-year-old that I spend the weekend with. And Monday mornings, unfortunately, don't always give me the best time to, record and edit. So we're getting them when we get them. I hope you do enjoy them. I want to thank my patrons and my members for your continued support. It's been extremely helpful and it helped me get some small things that made a big difference to this channel. If you'd like to become a member or Patreon, please check that out below. I try to include a little bit extra every month, including right now, exclusive chats with me one-on-one once a month. We can talk about Trek, we can talk about Outlander, we can talk about purple hair, we can talk about how many pictures I have on the wall, whatever you'd like to chat about. Really, it's up to you. It's your time. But again, that is for my patrons and my members only. Members, next week is your week, so please do check out for a post in the community to let you know it's time to sign up and link to use to get to me. And you just make sure you tell me when you'd like to meet up. Don't forget to include your time zone so I'll be able to figure out, when in my time you want to meet at your time. It's about time. Thanks everyone for joining me on this video update. I hope you got a little something out of it. And if you did not get enough Star Trek information and would like just a little bit more, please do check out any of the videos at the end of this video that you see. Please be aware that I do include Outlander updates along with Star Trek updates. So I'm here for both. And if you do decide to join me for one of those, then guess what? I'll see you there. I'm shrinking. The decisions as to what to do next. But I can't say words today. Now we are moving away from